Hey there, and thanks for tuning in to Matt's List. Today I'll be showing you how you can take your high definition file and reconvert it to YouTube for the best possible upload results. Before we begin this video though, I'd like to give a special thanks to these first 25 people on this list. These are the first 25 subscribers to my channel, and tomorrow I'll be doing a video on who wins the $10 iTunes gift card. Don't fret if your name isn't on here, but you're subscribed to my channel at the time of this video. You're still eligible for the first 50 subscribers $10 iTunes gift card. Also, if your name is on this list, you're eligible for the first one and the second one. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. As you can see here in Premiere Pro, I already have this project up and running, and before I began, I set in and out points. You can just go to the beginning of your video and use these two tools here, the I key and the O key. These will set your in and out points of this video. So once you have your video all set up and ready to go, and keep in mind that we're using a high definition file source of either 1080p or 720p, we'll go ahead and go to File at the top left, Export Media. Now I already have a custom preset here, but we'll go ahead and make a new one for the purpose of this video. Let's select YouTube, and we'll use this to make our settings. So we're going to make sure that export video and export audio are definitely checked. And real quick here, I'm going to go ahead and change the output to my other hard drive, because this one's filling up mighty fast. Then we'll go ahead and look in the video options. For filters, I don't have anything selected. In the multiplexer, you'd want to go ahead and set your multiplexing to MP4 and your stream compatibility to standard. Then we'll go to video, and we're going to have the NTSC button checked. I don't know if this is really any different if you use PAL, but this is what I use, and I found that it gives me the best results. Before we hit any of this stuff, we're going to go ahead and go down to level and change it to 5.1. Then we'll put our profile to high. Then we can scroll back up here and change our frame width from 1920 to 1280, and then our frame height from 1080 to 720. 1920 by 1080 is 1080p, and 1280 by 720 is 720p. So if you're using high definition footage of 1080p, use 1920 by 1080, and if you're using 720p, then use 1280 by 720. Frame rate will depend on what frame rate you recorded at. Go ahead and check your camera's manual or whatever to find out what you're recording at. I recorded at 30 frames per second. The pixel aspect ratio will remain at square pixels. As for the bitrate encoding, we're going to go ahead and set it to VBR 2 pass and nothing in advanced settings. So here's the tricky part, is our target bitrate. Here's the two things you need to know. The higher the bitrate, the more data that YouTube has to work with, and thusly a higher quality video. However, the higher the bitrate and the more data YouTube has, the higher the file size will be, which will affect on how fast it takes to upload it. So we're trying to get a good file size here, and the longer or shorter your video is will also determine the file size. Let's go ahead and see what 5 will get us. Okay, so if we have a bitrate of 5 megabytes a second, then our estimated file size will be around 142 MB. Again, if we were to jack this all the way up, then we're going to get a higher quality video. However, the file size may go over YouTube's available limit of 1 gigabyte. Different if you're a partner, obviously. So it's a difficult balancing act to get a good file size and a good video size, but typically I'll use anywhere from 4 to 6 depending on how high quality I want the video to be and how long the video actually is. Then we'll go over to audio, and as for our codec, we're going to leave it at AAC. Our output channels are going to depend on what we record with. If you're recording from a mono, use mono. If you're recording via stereo, use stereo. And if you're using a more expensive setup and it supports 5.1 channels, then use that. But we're going to be using stereo, and that will be the case for most users. Our frequency will be set at 44.1 kilohertz, and our audio quality set to high. Our bitrate settings, I have found that 128 kilobits or kilobytes a second is good enough so it won't affect the file size significantly. However, it'll give us very desirable audio output. And the precedence, we were going to leave it at bitrate. As for the others, we don't have our FTP server box checked. If you want to upload this video directly to an FTP server, we could. Sometimes I will do that, but in this case I'm not going to. Once again, we're going to go ahead and make sure the export video and audio are checked, and we're not going to mess with this output box up here. So we're just going to go ahead and go through the summary one more time just to make sure everything's correct. We're at NTSC at 1280 by 720p, 30 frames per second, and a progressive output. AAC audio codec at 128 kilobytes a second, at 41 kilohertz, 44.1 kilohertz rather, at stereo recording. VBR 2-pass at a target bitrate of 5 megabytes a second. Then we're going to just hit OK. Adobe Media Encoder is going to pop up, and it's going to go ahead and show us what we have in our queue. You can do multiple files one after another, or if you're just doing one file, then you're going to see something similar to this. It's just one file in this window and a button up here to add, duplicate, and remove. Honestly, don't mess around with these settings. All you have to do is select Start Queue. Depending on the beef of your computer and the processing power and RAM that it has available to it at any given time, that is what's going to dictate how fast your video encodes. For longer videos, it's probably going to take a longer time, and for shorter videos, it's probably going to take a shorter amount of time. So if you like this video, please comment, like it, subscribe, and tell your friends. And that's how to export your video from a high definition source for the best file quality on YouTube. Thank you very much, and have a good day.